Hello everyone, and welcome on back to the channel. We have the first 3 elite specializations revealed to us in both trailer and blog post format. So today we're going to react a little bit to the trailer and get into the blog post to talk about these elite specializations. Oh my gosh, first and foremost, this is of such a high quality. This is reminiscent of End of Dragons, but it's taken another step. I think they've done a fantastic job at putting together these elite specialization trailers when it comes to the narration, the information that they share, the visuals, the sound design, and the music, and the emphasis on those like skill effect sounds. I think sometimes the trailers were a little bit too quiet in terms of the action, but I found that this time around, it was pretty solid. It had a great balance, and so I really walked away from this video with a very good impression. First and foremost, they showed off the Troubadour, talking about how this is inspired from Sylvari Wild Hunts, where they go out into the world and they collect their knowledge and their experience and tackling their goals, and now they're able to come back to the Grove and tell their stories. And via the Troubadour, this is how they do it, and it kind of has some combat influence as well. So Mesmers are going to tap into this way of life, it seems. We'll talk about it in terms of lore, because the Galeshot is very much of a combat lore focus. This is very much like it's just taking inspiration from the Sylvari, I guess. They really showcase the beauty and the brilliance of Mesmer magic here by showcasing the Troubadour utilizing its instruments and its songs. I'm not sure what exactly they're going to be called, but we get a little taste of them playing their lute, of them playing their flute, and then they have this big crescendo moment where multiple illusionary instruments are playing, and it cones and circles out around them, dealing some type of effect. The blog post goes into a little bit more detail as to how the Troubadour is going to play, but we'll get into the blog post here in a minute. The next elite specialization that was shown in the trailer was the Galeshot, which is the Ranger's elite specialization. Now, the Galeshot, I actually am very excited for. I know some people might be approaching this one with a little bit more tepidness. I actually really love ranged combat in games, and I feel like in Guild Wars 2, they never really pushed the longbow in a direction that I would have liked to have seen, where it's like a really fast-paced, heavy-hitting sniper. The longbow ranger is very like consistent damage over time, but nothing akin to what we might be getting here. The animations for this are fantastic. I love the visual effects. They talk about how while you use this bow, which seems like it's going to maybe be like of a secondary weapon, similar to that of Bladesworn, or maybe it's some type of just transform where you can spend longer in it. While you are using this bow, you build up feathers, and these feathers are then utilized to empower your abilities, to utilize skill shots, sonic arrows, etc., etc. The lore angle for this is with the Tengu, where the Tengu are opening themselves up a little bit to the Tyrian Alliance and are willing to teach some interested individuals in the ways of the Galeshot, a specialized Tengu ranger. It's looking really well done and clean. I think that's another thing. This looks really clean. In terms of the video, I can't really ascertain any utility skills. It's mostly focused on the profession mechanic of the Cyclone Bow. The trailer here was a little bit more straightforward because it's just a lot of the weapon skill animations and the profession skill animations. So we'll get into the section in a little bit. But the final elite specialization to be shown is my main, which is the Guardian. The Guardian is the Luminary, which comes with an angle that I wasn't expecting. It's Char lore, where the warbands of the Char have come together to harness the faux fire. And Guardians are going to be able to utilize this in combat, and in doing so they get access to a transform. Was not expecting to get a transform on the Guardian just because of how their virtues work, but you're going to be transforming using this faux fire focus lantern object, and they get into a little bit, but each of the abilities in that shroud are a different weapon, and you're able to utilize that weapon as you see fit. And there's this interesting angle in changing up how a shroud works for Guardian than how it works for the other professions. But the actual gameplay of it looked pretty cool. I loved seeing the unique models for all of the spectral weapons and how the Guardian wields them. There might be some emphasis on light auras, perhaps. I wouldn't mind seeing that. But that is all with the video. And I gotta say, once again, great video. I'm super excited to see more in the next coming weeks to get just some visual gameplay for all the other elite specializations. This is only 3. There's still 6 to go. But let's get into the actual blog post to reveal a little bit more about each of these elite specs. So the Troubadour, as they briefly talk about, it has lore ties to the Sylvari and the Pale Tree, and now that the Sylvari Troubadours return home from their time abroad to share their craft in good faith and to strengthen their bond between their people and the rest of the Tyrian Alliance. Troubadours spin dramatic ballads and tales as their words weave magic and music to raise allies' spirits and demoralize their foes. Their recitals can even be accompanied by illusory instruments for additional effects. This elite specialization does seem to be more focused in terms of the group support and also in group disruption. Let's talk a little bit about the elite specialization in terms of its gameplay with the 2 sections, build up to a crescendo and the power of songs and tales. So build up to a crescendo. Troubadours are mesmers who seek to support their allies in battle through the power of music and the fantastical tales of Tyrian heroics. Being more orally focused, or orally, not oral, aura, Troubadours opt to manifest their power by generating musical notes with their abilities rather than visually deceptive clones. These notes are used to extend the duration of their instrumental enchantments, allowing them to command a lasting presence in combat. Once their orchestra is in full swing, Troubadours use their keynote skill crescendo to swing the tide of battle with appropriate flair. So even in this section, they do comment how there's going to be a change to clones. We do see some phantasms summoned. I'm guessing that is through the profession mechanic and maybe perhaps utility skills. And then in doing clone abilities, you seem to be summoning these notes either around that you have to pick up or they just are attributed automatically to the character. And then you use those notes to extend your effects. So it does seem that no matter the incantation and incarnation of clones, they're still going to be rather useful. Now we have the power of songs and tales. When playing as a troubadour, your shatter skills are replaced by instruments. When an instrument is played, it produces an initial magical effect. Performing with the reverberating lute will release waves of sonic energy damaging enemies. Strumming the harmonious harp will create a healing area to provide succor to allies. After an instrument is used, it will continue playing in the background, providing bonuses to the player that can be further augmented through traits. Troubadours use their voices as well as their instruments. They can recite the tale of Queen Jenna protecting Divinity's Reach to grant their allies distortion, or they can invoke the story of Scarlet Briar, emulating her cruelty to debilitate their enemies. Shouts, I'm guessing? Or, maybe a different utility name? Troubadours can become a whole band on their own through the Grandmaster trait Call and Response, creating an after image of an instrument that repeats its effects. Oh, that could be interesting. I like that they're giving us little hints as to some of the traits. But Troubadour is looking to be really fun. I am so excited to see how this plays in action. And I also want to say, because I've seen it on Reddit, I'm actually really pleased that they are going with a more unique direction in terms of giving distortion back to Mesmer, giving distortion share back to Mesmer. They quickly pulled that because it was very, very strong. Granted, that was through a trait, and that might have been able to be reduced even more so because of the effects of alacrity. This, it might be tied to some very strong skill, perhaps like an elite skill. And I think there is a way to balance it. I like when classes do lean into their unique mechanics and angles, because so much of the game's buffing system has been homogenized in boons. So yeah, I think distortion is cool as long as we see a couple other elite specializations play around with some type of strong group buffing effects, either ones that we've seen in the past or completely new ones they have devised for this expansion. Next, let's talk about the Galeshot. So yes, the Galeshot stems from the Dominion of Winds and the Tengu, feeling more comfortable in sharing their arts to the rest of the world. But let's talk about its mechanics. We have wielders of the Cyclone Bow. Galeshots are rangers and the premier archers of Tyria. Using their aptitude for nature magic, they can sculpt and command the winds at will. This power is manifested in the Cyclone Bow, a weapon that is capable of long-range devastation. The Cyclone Bow increases in strength as it's used, culminating in a powerful coup de grace to dispatch your enemies. Learning from nature, Galeshots emulate birds in the sky by employing squalls of air. They are swift and graceful to ensure advantageous positioning in battle. So this does seem to be more of a permanent weapon that they can swap into at any time, or, via the Blade Sworn Gun Saber, where it kind of acts as your secondary weapon. I wouldn't be mad at that, so long as the abilities are fun. I have my critiques of Blade Sworn personally. But yeah, I like that they are allowing you to camp in this to gain more effect, and I like bow classes, so I'm down. The next section is Battle with Keen Sight and Unerring Aim. Galeshots are able to call upon the Cyclone Bow at will. The Cyclone Bow generates arrows over time. These arrows are a resource used to fuel its skills, such as Supersonic Arrow, a lightning-fast shot of wind that deals heavy damage to enemies it pierces. As you use arrow-consuming skills with the bow, you progress towards enabling its finale, Hawkeye. Hawkeye locks onto your target and nearby enemies, then unleashes a hail of shredding arrows. These archers utilize squalls to control the flow of battle. They call upon a freezing wind to chill their projectiles, launch themselves with a whirlwind, or even summon a raging tornado. Galeshots can form a closer bond with their avian allies through traits like Flock Together, enhancing bird pets and granting quickness to allies with beast skills. Oh, so it's a quickness share, a quickness DP. I always really enjoy it when they have more of a DPS elite spec and have them focus a bit more on quickness. I think it works a little bit better. But it does seem like their utility skills are going to be known as squalls, or maybe it's different. This is just maybe the thematics that they're going with, but I think they are giving us a taste of each elite spec's utility skill towards the end of their section. So I'm interested to see how this ultimately plays. I really want to get my hands on it because I'm just eager for some more modern bow action. Next, let's talk about the Luminary, my baby, the Guardian. So as they briefly mentioned, they talk about Bangar and the legions. The Flame Legion is finally joined, and in creating some type of diplomatic venture, they combine their efforts to collect and contain the foe fire. Now, technically, they don't call it the foe fire, they just call it a powerful sacred flame, but at least it's like the only one that I can think of when it relates to the char, so it might be something different, but with it being blue and spiritual, it makes kind of sense, but we'll have to see a little bit more if they reveal any of that. But in terms of the actual gameplay, they have Harness the Radiant Shroud and Illuminating Weaponry. Luminaries are guardians, stalwart combatants on the battlefield capable of putting out respectable damage or supporting their allies. Their brazier provides energy for the Radiant Shroud, in which they are able to wield various weapons of light and flame to adapt to the situation at hand. Luminaries also have access to stance utility skills, gaining additional tools for offense, defense, crowd control, and mobility. Like to see stances coming to Guardian. Radiant Shroud is a new take on the Shroud mechanic. This Shroud has no limiting resource, allowing players to always enter when the Shroud is not on cooldown. While in Radiant Shroud, your weapon skills are replaced with 5 new skills, a basic attack in the first slot, and 4 radiant weapon skills in the 2nd through 5th slots. They expand on this with Illuminating Weaponry. Using a radiant weapon skill will equip that weapon while performing an initial attack, and then flip over into the weapon's additional skill. The Luminary's Grandmaster minor trait, Radiant Armaments, grants a unique passive bonus based on the equipped weapon, which lingers for a bit after exiting Shroud. Luminaries looking to maximize their outgoing damage may want to use the hammer right before exiting to take advantage of its bonus damage passive, while those who need to support their allies might prefer to end on staff to gain access to its increased outgoing healing. Players are free to use all 4 weapons while in Shroud, but there is a trade-off. The recharge time of Radiant Shroud will increase for each weapon used beyond the first. I think this is a very interesting way of taking a Shroud, in terms of it just being cooldown dependent and not necessarily resource dependent. So you might feel a little bit more comfortable using a lot of those abilities because you can be in there for a lot longer. But if you go out of the Shroud, you might realize, oh, I suddenly have like a 1.5 minute, 2 minute wait to get back into it, depending on how grand they scale the maximum cooldown possible for this shroud. But I'm very interested to see how those abilities interact in terms of weaving them together. If they all are hitting a different role, you might kind of just tunnel vision into a couple of them, but Guild Wars 2's combat is very improvisational, where you're always doing various things that you didn't plan on doing. So it still might be interesting, depending on the situations. And that, everyone, is the wrap-up for the first 3 elite specializations to be revealed for Visions of Eternity. We have the Troubadour, Galeshot, and Luminary. Comment below your thoughts about these elite specs. What was your favorite? What are you maybe a little cautious of? And what do you want to see next? What are your predictions for the next 3? I thought they were going to be the 3 that they originally told us about, which was the Troubadour, Antiquary, and Evoker, but they might be spacing that out a little bit. So we'll have to wait and see. Thank you all for coming on by. Like, comment, subscribe. Catch me over on Twitch on the weekends, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone. Mwah.